Hi, I'm Daniel Fisher from Sweetwater Sound. Today we are in beautiful Asheville, North Carolina to celebrate Bob Moog's birthday at the Moog Factory. We're going to take a huge extensive tour and then do some synth jamming, so let's check it out. So we're starting our journey here in the Moog store, which is inside the Moog Factory, and I'm here with Siobhan, the Director of Quality. So tell us what we're in for today.
Absolutely, we're super excited to show you our brand new factory floor. We have redesigned the floor with new workstations, new lighting, new equipment to ensure that we continue to make the highest quality Moog instruments possible. In addition to that, some amazing people that also work behind the scenes to make sure that every customer gets the highest Moog quality instrument that they deserve.
Cool, and I understand you've had the luxury of working with Bob Moog.
I actually did. I worked with him for over a year. One of my favorite Bob Moog stories is when I first started with the company, there was only about 12 people in the company, and I was the office manager, so filing, answering phones. Bob was trying to mail a letter, and he couldn't figure out how to use the postage machine, so he called me over, Siobhan, help me figure this out. So went over there, pushed some buttons, slid it through, and he just kind of looked at me and was like, huh, all right, thanks. And at that moment, I realized that I just taught Bob Moog how to do something. So it was a pretty special day.
Very cool. Well, thank you very much. And so let's start our tour through the factory.
Let's do it.
So here we are at the beginning end of the building with Hannah, the quality department team leader. So tell me a little bit about what you do.
So the quality department has three main functions. We do incoming inspection of raw goods. So we'll take raw part and then we'll do a mechanical inspection and also a cosmetic inspection. And then once we approve that, that goes to the production floor for building. We do final quality assurance on the production floor of the completed units, and then we also send back parts that don't meet our standard to the vendor.
So is an eye test part of the interview process?
It's not, should be, but right now there's only 3 of us that are doing it, and the department's relatively new in terms of the standards that we have, so we're really developing what kind of people we're looking for and the skills that are needed.
So we're here with Faye, the production supervisor of the Mother32 Ecosystem. But what does that actually mean?
Basically, my job is to ensure that our employee owners have everything they need to be successful, from tools to any kind of cleaning supplies, rags, materials, whatever the case may be. My job is to just make sure that they're successful while they're building these instruments.
So you probably didn't recognize me, but I remember seeing you at one of the Moog Fests actually building the Matriarchs and the Grandmothers. Can you tell me about launching those products?
Yeah, it's a really special journey that we end up going on with these units. I think it's always an interesting process when you get to actually introduce an instrument into the world and really putting it out there for other people to see. Being one of the first people to actually build these units and see them conceived from start to finish is just kind of a miracle in and of itself. It's a very beautiful thing. When we put these units out there, we know what they do, we know their functionality, but the creative applications and the ways people use them is always surprising. I view them more as paintbrushes from the Michelangelos and the Dalis of the world.
I do know what you mean because I use Moogs teaching at various colleges, and I'm always surprised at what new synth students do with this equipment, even though, again, like we both know what these can do technically. It's fascinating to see a newbie do something that you hadn't even thought of. So can you walk me through the process, starting from raw materials to the finished product?
Yeah, it's quite the journey. So we start out basically receiving our raw materials and then go to our quality department. We are very quality focused, so before any of those things actually even hit the lines, we're giving them a good once over. Those things are then brought to the line, and every assembler that gets those materials also does a cursory quality check. They perform their operation, perform another quality check, and then pass it to the next assembler.
So we're here at line 3 with Patrick, the team lead, and we're basically crafting grandmothers and matriarchs, right?
Yep, we start kind of all the way down at the end with board calibration. After that, the top chassis is kind of assembled, the side pieces are put on, the overlays are put onto the unit, and the boards are installed. And as it comes down, the hardware's installed on the unit at Station 2. Station 3 does kind of a quick function testing and marries the top chassis to a bottom panel. After that, they are put on a burn-in rack to simulate about 2 weeks of kind of use and play. We leave them plugged in for 24 hours, and that kind of simulates, you know, maybe an hour or two of play a day over the span of like several weeks. And that helps to rigorously test the electronic components. And once the units have burned in, they will hit station 4, which is a final function testing, cosmetic check validation station. Or ultimately, we send them off to our final quality assurance.
So clearly quality control is just a huge part of this building. What are the steps that you go through in this particular line?
So as instruments are being produced and kind of filtering their way from one station to the next station is always checking the work of the previous station as far as both cosmetic and sometimes even functionally. Things as small as the tactile feel of how some of the pots turn. If there's a little bit too much there, you know, not enough give there, then, you know, that doesn't meet our quality standard, in which we'll address it. And each and every instrument from, you know, our massive modular systems all the way down to our workshots, they receive the same amount of attention to detail. It doesn't matter if, you know, a 12-year-old kid playing on their first workshop, you know, very first analog synth versus Hans Zimmer with this massive kind of modular unit. Both of these players deserve the same attention to detail in their instruments. We keep that eye kind of focused on that.
So this is a special treat. We have an actual hardware engineer on the production floor. This is Mark, the senior hardware engineer for the Moog Matriarch. Hi, Mark.
Hey, how are you doing today?
Good. So tell me what it was like designing the Matriarch hardware.
With Grandmother, there were kind of some ideas of how we could expand the instrument, and began building prototypes, and wanted to change some of the identity of it by using the delay instead of the reverb, and ended up with a big modular system with a keyboard on it.
Yeah, I own one, and I gotta say I love the delay on that thing. Especially a lot of people don't know that there's actually 2 delays on that, and that each of them can do a ping pong. And so one of my tricks is that I'll take what I call a dummy cable. In other words, I put a cable in with nothing going to the other end, and I'll put that into the second input of the delays. And what that does is it gives me a much more distinct ping pong delay from the first half. And then that allows me to use the second delay as its own independent ping pong for some other device. And so I've got 2 separate ping pongs to play with, and I just love that.
Yeah, it's 2 fully independent delays that are based on the 500 series module.
So tell me about one of the special moments in the development of the Matriarch.
Yeah, I think for any instrument it's always really exciting when you get enough of a prototype together that you first start to be able to play with the instrument and get sounds out of it, and then you just get sucked into a wormhole for the whole afternoon, just seeing kind of what sounds you can get out of it, and making a bunch of recordings, send it to all the other engineers, to get people excited.
I know, I have visited that wormhole often. So on the front panel, you see semi-modular, but what does that really mean to an owner?
Yeah, I think it ultimately, with Grandmother and Matriarch, they are modular systems. They're just normaled, right? So you can replace the filter with another Eurorack filter you have, or you can use the envelopes for different parts of your system. And actually on the Matriarch and the Grandmother, all of the normals happen on the inputs. So you can patch the output, and then it still goes to its normal path.
So do you have any favorite Matriarch moments?
Yeah, I think when we released the instrument at Moog Fest, it was really awesome to kind of have it out in public and watch other people play with it and get to hear other people's patches and kind of, take it out of Moog and into the world and see what people do with it.
Well, thank you for coming downstairs and talking with us.
Yeah, thanks. It was fun.
So we're here with Zach, a production supervisor here at Moog. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, Daniel, it's my honor here at Moog to support the wonderful folks who build our legacy family of products, our subsequent family of products, and our Theremin family of products, to do the wonderful work they do, bringing these great instruments to the people around the world who want them.
So this seems like a really lengthy process.
That it is. So we begin the build process where all of the individual modules are constructed. They get individually tested, and then we bring the systems down over to Wade here, who populates the system and completely calibrates, tunes, and function checks it before cleaning it up and shipping it out the door.
So this I recognize as a Moog 3P. I did a video on this once. I had a really good time.
It's a beautiful instrument. So this is a faithful recreation of Bob's classic design from the late 1960s. So this entire build process for one of these systems would take a single person about 2 weeks. Compare that to average manufacturing time of a vehicle. It's about 17 hours.
Wow.
So a lot of love and care goes into these instruments before they head out the door. Really our chance to honor Bob's legacy here by showcasing how versatile and how useful his designs from so long ago can be in modern music production today. There's still lots of folks who love these instruments, and we're just so lucky to be able to make them.
And so what's with all the blue tape over all the modules?
So you can see from what Wade's working on here, he's pulling the modules out, he's pushing them back in, and in doing so introduces a lot of opportunity to damage those face panels as they go in and out of the system. So we're doing everything we possibly can to prevent any damage to the hard work that the folks who built these modules put into it.
Well, Zach, thank you very much for showing this. This is one of my favorite departments, the modular stuff. Obviously, this is the stuff I started with in 1980, so it means a lot to me to be seeing it again, and especially from the inside.
Well, it's an honor and it's a pleasure.
So we're here with Claire, a production assembler, and she's working on the Moog One. That's a really complicated beast. Tell me about what it takes to make one of these.
Well, it takes about 2 hours for the build on the production line. It's just the building. Like you said, it's a beast. It's a big, beautiful beast that we're all really proud of. I mean, we have a person that's dedicated alone to just matching the wood. This has 144 buttons on it, and if there's even the tiniest blemish on one, we will take it all apart, break it down, switch the one button. Even if you can only see it at a certain light and at a certain angle, that's not okay with us. You know, we're all employee owners here, so if the quality goes down, we're all going down with it.
So we're here with Megan, the calibration team leader, and as an owner of analog synthesizers, I understand how important calibration is.
Yeah, it is very important to get, you know, these instruments that can be so idiosyncratic to be consistent with each other, even despite the analog circuitry.
And how do you do that here? How do you achieve all that?
So we measure things, we adjust things, either using a file that we send from the computer, or we adjust something on the circuit board itself.
So can you tell me a little bit about the tools and techniques you use to do this calibration?
For sure. So we will use a voltmeter to, you know, calibrate all the different control voltages. We will also use the voltmeter to make sure that all of our frequencies are in spec. We will use an oscilloscope to make sure that our waveforms are as they should be, you know, making sure that that harmonic content is up to par. And then we will also use a tuner just to make sure the instrument's in tune.
So Megan, could you walk us through one of your calibration routines?
Sure. So, if I have a note droning, for example, I have this box that'll send 1 volt. It's got Totoro on it, it's really cute. I will send that into an oscillator, and if I send +1 voltage, I should get the change of 1 octave in tune. This is pretty good. So I sent 1 volt, and we're at C5 and it's in tune. But if it's not, I can adjust it back here using a little tool and a little hole in the chassis to access a trim pot. Okay, so that's pretty good. I'll go ahead and take a look at my oscilloscope and make sure that my waveforms are symmetrical. You see that? So I've got a triangle wave here, looks pretty good. What I'm doing, if I do need to adjust that triangle wave, is I am adjusting on a trim pot underneath the circuit board the harmonic content of it. But this one looks pretty good. I don't feel like I need to adjust it. But if I needed to, and I'll show you what it sounds like. To do this, I need to go inside the instrument. If I need to, I've got a little thing right here. You can kind of hear, as I turn it, the harmonic content changes. And so I want to make sure that this triangle wave is perfectly symmetrical and has the correct harmonic content. That is a healthy waveform. And so that's just a couple of the things that we'll do, but probably the simplest to show. So, yeah.
Well, Megan, thank you very much for the demonstration and the calibration walkthrough.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do it.
So it's 3:45 p.m. That means all of the aisles are empty. Everyone's gone outside for a much needed break to hang and talk and let everybody regroup for some more assembly and calibration. So we're here with Margot at the FQA station, which I understand stands for Final Quality Assurance. So what does that mean?
So at Final Quality Assurance, we check finished product. So we're taking units that have already been put through the line, they're completely assembled, completely calibrated, and they should be ready to go to the customer. So unlike different stations that use things like oscilloscopes or multimeters or tuners, you know, we have all of those things, but what we're trying to do is play it and test it as if we were the customer receiving it. So we're mostly going by ear, but we are checking every element of the synthesizer. We are able to test pretty much every type of synth that comes through here. We tend to mostly test things like the keyboarded synths, things like the Grandmother or the Matriarch or the Moog One. We've looked at thousands of these. So at this point, we know how they should sound, we know what a customer should be hearing, and each of us have a pretty deep understanding of how synthesizers work in general and how different modules should sound and how they should affect one another. So if there is an issue, we should be able to catch it by ear, and if we need to, we can use different tools to sort of double check with that, or we can go talk to people on the line and see what they've maybe heard in the past.
And so after all this time, can you jam on these too?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely made patches on this, on the Moog One. Yeah, it's very fun.
Cool. So we're here in the Moog Warehouse with John, the shipping lead. Tell us a little bit what goes on here.
Well, this is one of our 4 warehouses, but this is where everything from Moog goes out. It's kind of a small space, so everything kind of goes in and out pretty quickly. All the stuff from production gets built, comes down here, gets put on pallets, usually within a couple days. We don't usually keep a lot of stock. It's a pretty quick turnaround and pretty fast pace down here.
So clearly it's very busy here in the warehouse. About how many units ship out a day?
I mean, we can have 100 to 200 different synths going out. We have about 100 different partners all over the world. We ship stuff to every continent except Antarctica, of course. So stay pretty busy getting everything out.
Cool. Well, thanks for showing us around. I know a lot of people don't get to see back here, so this is very cool.
Yeah, thanks. We really just want to show everybody at Sweetwater what's going on in all the different departments.
So we're here at Moog's Service and Support Center. I'm here with Taylor. Tell us how you help our customers.
Yeah, so we help probably over 100 customers a day, either over phone or email or the chat function on our website. We repair broken instruments and provide technical support, integration to DAW systems or studio setups in general.
So as I look around, I see a whole bunch of service technicians going at it right now. Tell me a little bit about them.
Yeah, so our service technicians are highly skilled, very broadly trained. They deal with a wide catalog of Moog instruments that go all the way back to the Big Briar days of the late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah, so they have to be well versed in not only all of our instruments, but how those instruments, again, integrate into modern setups and how to repair them as well.
Well, Taylor, thanks a lot for showing us around. There's a lot of very cool stuff going on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for stopping by.
So we're here at the Moog Sound Lab right next to the Moog Factory, and I'm with Jason Daniello, who is the Artist Relations Manager for Moog. Tell me about what that entails.
It entails a lot of communication with different artists, carrying on the legacy of what Bob started, with collaborating closely with musicians of all kinds, and listening to what they have to say about what their needs are in the music world so that they can best express what they need.
So I know the Sound Lab is used for artist performances and stuff. I got to do 3 of them today. I'm doing 2 tonight, so very excited about that. But what else goes on in this room?
A variety of things, really. oftentimes we will have artists come in and do a residency. They will be able to just explore all these sounds, come in and sample everything, talk with our engineers, and just get more in depth into synthesis. In addition, we have a series called Moog Demo Library, where we explain different patches or ways to use these instruments, which are also available on the Sweetwater product page.
Yep. So I teach at several colleges. I've taught at Berkeley College and Purdue and St. Francis, and I use Moog equipment. And one of the things I tell students who are in the class who aren't necessarily dedicated musicians is that Bob never intended for all these instruments to be just for trained musicians. In fact, you know, the keyboard wasn't always part of these synthesizers. As long as you have an ear and an opinion, you can synthesize.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I'm here to carry on that vision that Bob had. You don't have to be some synth wizard to be able to pick up a Moog synthesizer and explore it and come up with incredible ideas. That's what I did when I first came here in 2006. I walked into a demo room and played a Voyager, a mini Moog Voyager, which we don't create anymore, but I played on it and I'm like, okay, this is a whole new way of thinking. This is a whole new way of exploring myself and exploring music in general. So yeah, that's exactly right.
It's like a whole nother playground in the artistic world. To see what people do and the different applications that they use them, I think is just phenomenal. And for me, that's the most special thing, is watching someone actually pioneer a whole new creative space with our instruments.
So we put as much love and care into the building of the inside of these cabinets as we do to the cosmetics on the outside. It's a show of the creativity and the passion that the folks who are building these instruments have. It's also just our way of honoring Bob's legacy and the instruments that he designed for us to be so lucky to make.
I wasn't expecting to work here. I was a tour manager for a long time, and some of the artists that I worked with and stage managed have used Moog products, and the pandemic put a halt to that industry and touring. I was lucky enough to find a place here. I'm just really proud to tell people that I work here. You know, just in Asheville, this is a point of pride. I think in the music industry, the Moog brand is really renowned, and Bob himself is a legend. We're bringing up his vision to fruition, building these. It's pretty special. It's kind of thrilling to be a middleman or a messenger between geniuses.
Thanks for helping us celebrate Bob Moog's birthday. Please like, comment, and subscribe. My name is Daniel Fisher. Thank you very much for watching.